Hey guys, what's up? Thanks for checking the video out. So I'm going to show you how to replace the thermostat in this 2010 Subaru Outback. And just to clarify, it is the 4-cylinder 2010 Outback. I'm sure it's very similar on the 6-cylinder on how to do this. But just for clarification, it's a 2.5 liter 2010 Outback. So to replace the thermostat, you essentially want to come down here to where the radiator is. There's going to be a large Phillips screw that you're going to want to pop out of that radiator. And before you just pull it out, of course everyone knows this, but you want a bucket, something that can accept around 10 quarts of fluid. There's quite a bit of coolant in the system, so yeah, I think it's like 9 quarts maybe in total. I'll have to check it obviously once I get further into this and refilling the radiator, but yeah, so you want to let that drain. It'll probably take maybe 15 minutes at the most. And please, please, please leave the cap on until it's been draining for a second. Otherwise, if you take this cap off before you pull that plug, you're gonna get nice little spray in the face. Don't worry, I definitely know from experience on that one, so I'll save you the coolant in the mouth. So yeah, definitely do that. Once you've kind of let it drain for maybe a minute or two, like I said, you'll just pull that and it's gonna rush out. So you'll definitely want to use some blocks or something to put underneath your bucket. That way it's raised. Otherwise, it's gonna shoot in because it's so far down compared to where the car is. It's just gonna splash out and spray everywhere. Definitely recommend a towel or something to absorb any excess spray. And then yeah, so just maybe wait, I'd say 15 minutes or so, and then we'll throw that plug back in there. Okay, so we let the coolant drain for probably 15 minutes, I'd say. And I just barely put back in that radiator drain plug, just a bit like large Phillips. And that's just gonna be right here. So I did notice it sprayed all over the frame. Went over, dripped all over here, so definitely just have extra towels and, you know, whatever you use for absorption. That way, when it sprays everywhere, you're protected, especially if you have animals that go in your garage. Coolant is terrible and very toxic, so. All right, guys, so you got that radiator drain plug put back in. Now you're gonna go under here and you're gonna pull the hose off of the engine. And of course, there's likely going to be a lot of coolant that comes out. So I've got my bucket right here. I've got my towels, extra paper towels, of course, and all that. So yeah, take that hose off next. Alright guys, so now that I decided to not pull this off because it's being kind of a bitch, so that's fine. But go ahead and, you know, either take it off or just pull this end off. Once you do that, you can see there's one bolt right there. I believe it's a 10 millimeter. I'll check in a second. And there's another one up top that you want to pull off as well. Alright guys, so essentially you're just taking this off. Like, it's hard to see. That's where the lower hose connects. There's just 2 bolts. They are 10 millimeter bolt size, about that large. And once you do that, once you undo those bolts, you pop the housing off, and then that's where your thermostat goes. And this is the old one. It's probably seized up or something. Just popped it out. We're gonna go ahead and put the new one in there. Alright guys, so we got the new thermostat Subaru OEM, and that is the old one. This was a cheap one that actually was faulty from AutoZone. Literally, for a thermostat, never do anything else except OEM. And then essentially you're gonna put it up into that hole again, and this pin needs to be pointed up. Cool, so I just put that in there. I've got the pin facing upwards, and yeah, I mean, essentially at this point, just gonna put the housing back on, and then from there, throw the hose back on, clamp it up, and fill it up with some coolant. Something additional I did want to mention is that these bolts are very, very picky as far as like the foot-pounds you want to put them at. I believe it's around 9 foot-pounds, so not a whole lot of torque, basically just hand tight. Don't overdo it, otherwise you're gonna make that seal right there leak. Alright guys, so just finished up swapping out that thermostat, put the hoses back together. Everything's all good under there. So now, time for the fun part. Let's fill this up with, we've got 2 Subaru genuine coolant, 50/50 pre-diluted, large jugs. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw that in there, and then I'll show you how to use this. I think it's only 15 bucks, maybe 20 on Amazon. But this is necessary in order to bleed the air bubbles out of the system. So I'll show you that in just a second. Alright guys, I figured I'd show this. This is much easier than using the funnel since it's made for a lot more fluid. It comes with a tons of different attachments, so at least for this one it's the green attachment. Works super well. Alright guys, so we got it pretty much filled up. It's not really going down anymore, no bubbles are coming out. So now we're gonna leave it as it is. It's all sealed and everything, and this is what allows the trapped air in the system to be pulled out entirely. So I'm gonna go ahead and get in the car, and we're gonna put the heater all the way on, throw this all the way on, get that key going, turn it, and as you can see, we'll be able to kind of watch the air bubbles go out once we start it. As you can see, it's going to start having air bubbles come out, and we're essentially going to wait for that to go off. I want it to fully warm up. And honestly, it should only take really, ideally, maybe 5 minutes at the most, maybe 10 minutes for this whole process. But you need to have the heat on all the way, that way you can really start to feel it get hot in here. That means there's no air bubbles, excuse me, in any parts of the system. And at that point, I usually like to take it on a test drive, make sure no surprise lights come on or issues are coming on. But we had a code throwing this one on. It was for a bad thermostat. The check engine light's gone, everything's gone, so it might come back on, who knows. Of course, in this model there's no thermostat monitor. There's literally, or temperature monitor, I guess you could call it, literally just an MPG gauge there, even though there's one up here. So kind of stupid, but essentially I like to rev it up to around 3,000 and just kind of hold it for a while, let it really push the coolant through the system. And obviously once it starts really bubbling and getting hot, you don't want it to overfill up or anything like that, but definitely make sure you have enough coolant in that in case it decides to pull it down a little once the thermostat opens and pulls in more into the system. But yeah, essentially just going to rev it for a while, and yeah, this should cause the thermostat to engage, and then we can do a test drive. Alright guys, so I kept doing the constant rev up and letting this fill up, and then it drained due to the thermostat activating and it trying to cool the engine down. So now I've let it cool off. This was definitely a little steamy and smoky, so I let it cool off. Now we're just gonna plug this and take the rest of that fluid and drain it. I'm not keeping it, I just have a full extra bottle. But now we're gonna go test drive it, and then obviously I'm gonna check and make sure that this excess reservoir is in between full and low, and then yeah, we'll go ahead and give it a test drive. Alright everyone, so I've been driving around for about 24 minutes now, and most of the time I just kept the heat on just to try and heat up the engine more, but I also switched it over to the AC just to mess around. And so far the lights are not coming on anymore, so I believe the faulty thermostat was the issue. And yeah, so that's how you replace your thermostat. And then obviously you need to correctly bleed the coolant system, that way it doesn't overheat on you or not warm up and then overheat randomly. But yeah, let me know if you have any questions. Hit that like button, and see you in the next one. Thanks, guys.